Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, good evening, wherever you are, and whenever you're able to tune into this conversation. My name's Dave Sleet. I'm Managing Director of A&A Psychological Accreditation, and today I'm going to be joined by two amazing peers who are collectively going to be discussing hopes for the future of the world of therapy. And when I say the world, quite apt that we are joined by someone from the UK and someone from the US. So without further ado, allow me to introduce you to Bernie and to Teresa. Oh, ladies, I'm going to allow you to introduce yourselves to everybody in a bit more detail first off. So Bernie, if you wouldn't mind.
I don't mind at all.
Fabulous, kick us off.
My name's Bernie Wright. I work as a specialist in eating disorders and working with people in larger bodies. I train, mentor and fight very hard for the stigmatization of people struggling and fight very hard for getting the support within the UK and worldwide that we just don't have today. That's my passion, and that's what I wake up to go to work to do every morning. And that's me.
And thank you for your time today to talk about hope for the future. Teresa, over to you.
Hi, how are you? So hi, my name is Teresa Powell, and I'm over from the US, and I am a self-awareness strategist and a personal development coach / educator. And so basically what I do is I work with men and women who are stuck or dealing with some challenges. And so I help them to get through those challenges and just basically to discover, reconnect, and build who they are so that they can move forward living 100% life again.
Wonderful.
And so that is basically my passion, is working with people, generally just really helping them get there.
And I think it's phenomenal that we're able to bring together two extremes of experience. So coaching stateside is very different to coaching UK, and the therapeutic arena that Bernie is aptly experienced in the sense that the minuteness of the field in which you work gives you a very, very different take on how therapeutic engagement happens for those in need. And I think we are extremely blessed to have you both with us. So thank you very much for your time. I'd like to kick off first with something that we've all experienced, C19, and the impacts that has had on the sector as a whole is very, very different based on different people's experience prior to C19. What would you say are the highlights and lowlights from the pandemic as you've seen them this year?
The highlights. Struggling a little bit here.
and this is the thing, is we've seen across the sector that there are professionals who have benefited from increased engagement because mental health has been spoken about like never before. There are professionals that have struggled. It's not the same boat for everybody. It might be the same storm, but it's definitely not the same boat. So, that changes the dynamic of how the therapeutic sector can engage, doesn't it?
I know, Dave, me and you have had conversations about it, especially with the high numbers over this way in the United States. And I've shared with you, I've seen good and bad out of this whole pandemic, and You know, the bad being that some people are stuck, like you said. They don't know how to move forward in the pandemic. And then I see there are, you know, tons of things that I've seen to be good come out of this, even though there's definitely has been some bad out of it as well. You know, people losing their lives. I've lost somebody dear to me recently to it. But the good that I look at it is I really felt like we were becoming this world of just living, and we weren't really embracing all of the things that was once here before, like family. Just caring enough about each other to help one another, or just even taking a moment to realize not taking things for granted. And I think that there has been over time now that we have taken things for granted, and now the pandemic has allowed us to sit for a moment and realize what we have, realize the people in our life, you know, where we kind of weren't doing that for a second and we were just kind of living. And so then we've got those that who don't know how to move forward, so they're stuck in, you know, and they've been doing things one way, and they don't know how to exercise the growth of doing other things, so they're kind of stuck and they don't know how to move forward. And I think that's the place where therapy really strongly comes into place, to be able to help those with techniques and tools of how to be able to move forward no matter where we're at in life, whether it's a pandemic, whether we're just at a stage of stop for a moment. That's where I can see that, you know, professionals can be there to help them, because we are seeing we're seeing a lot of mental health that's coming out, you know, especially with this situation, because a lot of people don't know how to handle it. So.
Absolutely. Yep. Mental health is just, I suppose when it all started off, that was the biggest fear that I had, you know, just, and I think I've been, I mean, I'm in my specialism that I do, we have just got so crazy busy in the way that it's just, you know, I certainly couldn't take on anybody else, and it's a case of referring, and to the extent we've got very few people we can refer on to anymore. And I'm struck very much, actually, as that's just in the world that I work in. You know, substance abuse, I'm talking to colleagues in that, and, you know, drug addiction, domestic violence, suicidal ideation, suicides. It's just all gone through the roof, and people haven't had the tools to be in a block of flats in London on the 16th floor. And I think that there has been, for me, it's divided us in some ways. There's been some beauty in it of you know, you certainly know some very good in people, but I also do believe that the people who have to go into London to do jobs that are low paid, and they've got certainly far more risks of getting the coronavirus, or people that a lot of middle class wealthy people who are being furlonged, and it's for some people it's almost, I know there's a lot of resentment from the poor, because it's a case of, yep, it's fine for you lot, it's almost like one holiday, but we're dying out here.
Yeah.
To me, it has divided even further, and I might be totally wrong about this, but this is how I'm experiencing it, how it's divided the rich and the poor even further, perhaps.
Yeah. I saw an image that really summed that up a couple of weeks ago, and the tag, we're, you know, two images, the headline banner that said we're not all in the same boat, had an image of a yacht and an image of somebody on a handmade raft, and the backdrop was exactly the same. And it's just struck home that we're not all in the same boat. There are some people that are doing quite nicely, thank you very much, and there are those that are really struggling. And like you say, it amplified the differences and the divides that were already in place. And for me, what I think has hit home the hardest is we were saying a year ago this month that mental health is in crisis. We didn't even know the pandemic was coming. And we knew for a long time that the systems around mental health were not fit for purpose. We were struggling with the number of people engaged. We were struggling to get the message across to people of how to engage. And we weren't doing anything as a sector to actually redress that. It took two princes to put some headbands on and say, come and have a conversation. Something has to be wrong if the sector is relying on that level of engagement in order to promote growth. And for me, I said right at the beginning of 2020, when this broke, we have to embrace this as a year of opportunity. We have to take the system that we know aren't working. We know there are bits that work and there are bits that don't. So let's transfer over the bits that we know work. Let's leave the bits that don't work behind. So we've now got a list with partial, if you like. We know what those gaps are. Let's build the filler for those gaps. So we've got something that we can start to use that's effective, because now we've got time to build those things. And I think as a sector, certainly in the UK, we fell into our silos, or parts of our sector fell into their silos and became very insular about what works for them and not engaging with anything else because they weren't in their silo. One of the things that you said earlier, Bernie, around that collaboration, the potential for is massive. Do you think that the year we've had has highlighted how poor, as a sector, our collaboration is in operation rather than what we talk about?
For me, dramatically, yes, I would say. For me, it's the fact that we have to fight so hard to be heard I always find really shocking. You know, we shouldn't have to be screaming about support, financial support for mental health. And I suppose, and when and as you said about the princes coming out and talking about mental health, and I remember thinking at the time, yeah, that it's dreadful that we have to get two members of the royal family out here to stand up and say, mental health, come and talk to somebody. And equally, I was also really irritated, Dave, because there was no money to actually, so it's all very well, let's everyone go and talk to someone. I'd rather they just put all of them up, stole Buckingham Palace, you know, without being too political here, but please come on TV, do what you're going to do, but you take your money out of your pocket and you give it to all these people. Don't get and of course we were inundated with people who were coming to talk, and of course who are they going to talk to? Yeah. Because it's not fit for purpose.
Yeah, and this is where this whole not fit for purpose has really been amplified. But I think the response as a sector has been to retreat and not to come out and go, yes, but if you're going to talk to somebody, if you're ready for that, then this is what you should be looking for. This is who you should be talking to. You know, talking to Jack in the pub might make you feel good for the 20 minutes that you're talking to Jack in the pub.
Yeah.
But if you spent 20 minutes talking to a professional who knows what they're doing,
yeah,
you're going to feel good for the rest of the week.
Yeah.
You know, and this is something that I suppose globally is a massive factor as well, because Teresa, stateside, you've also had the chaos that was an election.
Mm. Well, Teresa, where do we go with that one? It's like
Well, like I was telling Dave, we definitely, with an election like that, every therapist should have been coming out of the woodwork. Coming in, because we needed therapy after that. So, but no, I absolutely agree with you, what you just said, because it's very frustrating, because I feel like a lot of times mental health gets a bad rap. And people look at it as almost like the plague. But at the end of the day, it's there for a reason, you know. You need a soundboard to be able to talk to someone about, you know, and I'm glad that, you know, people are coming forward now. I'm glad that the princess came forward and stated what she was going through, because I think what happens too is a lot of people don't feel comfortable coming to people about it. So when we have someone as famous like that can come in and share, it makes it a little bit better for other people to be like, oh, I'm not the only one. You know, and so when we can use our platform, I think it's important for us to use our platform, because a lot of times we use our platform for other things that I don't think is always beneficial, but something like this is so beneficial, you know. And so that is the same thing that we go on over this way. And, you know, just like you said with the whole election and stuff like that, you know, definitely besides the election, just what we over here have gone through, and I know you guys have saw a lot of stuff that we have endured over here in the United States, and it definitely we need to have this in place better than what it's in place, and that's just globally. And how do we do that? You know, it's honestly, it's up to us to be able to connect and collaborate maybe with those that have a stronger platform, so that we're educating people, because a lot of times it's the lack of education that one has to understand what we really do and how beneficial it is to people around the world, not just to a little sector of people, but how beneficial it is to everyone. Because no matter how much money you make, you know, crisis can hit anyone.
Yeah.
If we're just out there trying to figure out, like, how do we collaborate with others that have that platform, that we can educate them, and that we can come together and do something together that reaches millions.
Absolutely.
And one of the things that struck me that hasn't really kind of been challenged this year, and I'd love to know your thoughts on this, is the idea that mental health is something that happens to you when something bad happens. We've not really challenged that this year.
Right.
And for me, it's been a long, hard lesson when I went through major trauma, that mental health is a constant. It's almost like a sliding scale that I travel down based on what is happening to me and my reactions to it. It's not something that gets turned off when I reach a positive point of measure. It's something that slides up and down, and it's not something to be ashamed of as to where I am on that scale, because where I am on that scale is only dependent on the abilities and the skills that I've already learned to build my resilience, what's going on around me. If I haven't learned those skills, if I don't know how to develop that resilience, how can I be ashamed about the impact that that has on me as an individual? Because if no one taught me to walk, I'd still be crawling.
Right.
But we've not challenged this concept that mental health is something that happens to us. And I wonder what your thoughts are on that kind of focus that it has kind of stuck to. It's an event that that is our mental health.
Well, we are our mental health, and that's what I think we and it ebbs and it flows, as you said, you know, and sometimes that we're able to cope beautifully, and if we're lucky, and I say that very respectfully, if we're lucky, and other times we just feel like we're walking in treacle. And it's and which is what's happening. I mean, collectively, everyone that, you know, comes online now is clearly, and as you said earlier on, we're all in this. We know we're all the parallel process. I've never known anything like it. So, you know, my clients and my supervisees, we're all walking in the same shoes, a bit differently. Our story is different, but fundamentally, we're all locked in or locked out or whatever you want to call it. And our freedom has been taken away. It's not the life we knew. And it's a huge amount of loss for all of us, really, coping with what only seemed like yesterday was so taken for granted. And if I have one more person say, if I knew what I know, if I only knew how great life was then. In fact, I found myself saying it.
Yeah.
What the hell was I moaning about?
Right. And, you know, and then that's why I said that there was some positive that came out of this, because it allows you to see, you know, because before we're just going, and we're not thinking about anything around us. But now when you're confined and you're made to stay somewhere, you have no choice to think about, like, I wish I would have done this, or I wish I'd have known this, and I wish, you know, and that's the part that I get out of it, where it has brought us to a place where we appreciate things a little bit better.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%.
Right. But on the, like you said, the events that happen has brought out a lot of mental health that people didn't even know that they had. But when you're faced with that, a lot of times, like you said, some people can move on and go on about their business, but some other people, it's just like, I can't handle that. And I think when I first heard back in March, when the first person I heard about that committed suicide because of the pandemic and being in the shut-in, I couldn't imagine myself, like, you know, my first thought was like, what would make a person do that? You know, but because everyone is different and everybody reacts differently, and we have to stop grouping people in as the same. Everyone's different. And so that's
just hearing you speak, Teresa, reminds me of one of the conversations you and I had sometime in the summer around what Mother Nature was doing to the planet. And this idea that as a species, we've messed up. Like teenagers, we've messed up our room, we've messed up the living room, we've messed up the kitchen, we haven't cleaned up in the bathroom, and Mother Nature has come along, grounded us, sent us to our room, and told us to think about what we've been doing. That first lockdown, we saw oceans get cleaner, air quality improve. We saw the biggest change in natural balance for hundreds of years. And it was like Mother Nature was literally taking us out of the equation so she could tidy up.
Yes.
And like you said, we've actually had to sit in our room and think about what is important to us.
right.
And in part of that, we've got in my mind, and I know we've talked about this before, but we've got to come to terms that we are, as a planet, as a species, we are grieving for the loss of what was in December 2019.
Oh, yeah.
The way of
I
living
absolutely,
has
yes.
died.
And I agree with you 100% on you saying that the loss of what we have, because that is what I hear people, and you know, even when I'm out and about, if I'm in a store or maybe I'm somewhere, I hear people say, I just want it to go back to the way it was. Well, here's the thing. I actually don't want it to go back to the way it was. I want to learn from this. And then I want to move forward, because there is something to learn out of this. You hit a lot of things. There were things, like you said, the smog had gotten better. Animals that we never even seen were coming out of the woodwork because we were on the shutdown and they didn't have to fear humans. You know, there were so many things that happened. So it's like, what are we supposed to learn from this? That's the thing. We need to take a moment and sit down and learn about what we're supposed to get from this. And then we need to move forward with this. And it's the same thing when I hear people go, I just want 2020 to be over. That's great. But guess what? In 2021, COVID's still going to be here. But what are you going to do different moving forward?
And that's exactly what I wanted to come to next. Thank you very much for that really nice segue in. Brilliant. Perfectly timed. And no, was not scripted.
That was beautifully put, Teresa. And I couldn't. And I also thought, isn't it strange? The animals could come out and lose their anxiety, and we all looked in. We were all locked in while our anxiety went through the roof. It's like, I hope when we all go out again, we'll all be less anxious.
and we've seen anxiety go through the roof. Yeah. We've seen grief go through the roof, and it's all hit at the same time. And like you say, it's an opportunity to grow. What have we learned from this as a sector as well as individuals? So what is that growth? What would you like to see as 2021 unfolds? Not only from peers and professionals, but from the sector as a whole.
Courage.
Yes.
Wow, there's a big one. I'll just go and get some. It's in the cupboard.
You've got some. Courage, you know, integrity, sort of ability just to push through unfairness and injustice and do what's right.
Integrity is a huge one.
Yeah.
A huge one, because people have lost that. You know, I have adult children, and one of the things I always have this conversation with my daughter is, I grew up where, especially when I worked for companies and they would train us, that word always pops up in the trainings, integrity. And so now when I'm looking at my younger people, integrity is nowhere in them. And so I would like to see that back. That is something that we can bring back, is integrity, respect.
And we can.
Right. And, it's building those self-worths and self-esteems back up, that confidence back up. I'd like to see more people not be afraid to, when they're going through something, is be able to reach out, whether it be reaching out to their doctors, reaching out to whoever it is out there so that they can get the help that they need. I would like to see, more of that.
Something like reaching out without rejection.
Then turn around and get in a situation where they feel like there's no way out.
Yeah.
So they take the option of what's not right, whether it's taking their own lives or taking other people's lives.
Yeah.
I would like to, that's what I would like to see, like you said, is courage, integrity, respect, bravery, and just being able to get the help that they need.
Yeah,
that's what I would like to see.
So beautiful if that happened.
And what strikes me is the building blocks for all of those things can be found in just 3 building blocks, right? If we can return these key building blocks to the world around us as a sector, then those things will automatically grow, right? Building block 1, empathy. We have lost empathy. It has been taken away from us throughout every single system and engagement because empathy don't pay a bill. But without empathy, you can't have any of the engagement that is required in any way, shape, or form. Okay? Building block 2, congruence. We have lost congruence in our public systems, our state systems, our national systems, and in our international systems. I recently gave a presentation around the importance of trust, understanding, and believability in corporate messaging. And all of those things can only exist if there is congruence in that system. And if there isn't, you can't get any of those other things. It just doesn't grow. It's, you don't even get mushrooms growing without congruence. So those 2 building blocks being put back into the social fabric of engagement makes a massive difference. But the 3rd building block is something that every single one of us is guilty of losing over the last year. It's the sense of unconditional positive regard. We've fallen into our silos. As a sector, we don't have unconditional positive regard for someone who works in a different way to the way we work, because the way we work is the way we work, and this is the only way that's going to work for anybody, because I don't know what's in your silo. And because of that, I think everyone has retreated from that collaborative working because their concern is, I don't want to be attacked because of the way I work. I don't want to attack somebody else, so I'm just not going to engage. And when we do that as a sector, it shows the rest of society that actually that's okay. Because we're the only sector that should be doing the complete opposite and going out there and saying, yes, you are a human being. I will treat you as a human being. And it doesn't matter what your experience of the world before this moment is, I can impact the experience from here on in. And that allows self-worth, self-awareness, self-respect, all of those things that we know as professionals impact on the engagement with the world around us. How would you like to see 2021 end for the therapeutic sector? What would you like to see happen by the end of the year?
By the end of next year?
Tough, isn't it? To jump forward and say, let's take the lessons, but what do those lessons mean that the world can look like?
I think it starts right from the membership boards. It starts the whole way through, and I think it's something about abandoning all that sort of, we're okay, you're not okay. more of a total sort of I'm okay, you're okay, collaborative, all working together. And that's the only way I can see it work. I think I believe absolutely in our world, we have a huge amount of grandiosity, almost this sort of total fear of either being found out or seen not to be doing everything well. And it's something about, we are not doing it right. So let's just all put our heads together and, for goodness sake, all just get it right together. We make mistakes, but if we all stand in our little islands and, left, in different places, nothing is going to change. And I think the therapeutic world has got to change absolutely dramatically.
That's true. We do. And we have to stop showing people that, or showing and telling people that, like you said, it's okay, I'm perfect. Because we're not. We're all imperfect.
You're perfectly imperfect.
I think it's good to fail. There's a positive to that word, because you learn your most from your failures.
Yeah.
First attempt at learning.
Correct. And when we walk around like we're perfect and we have everything, and I think even this is a conversation I've had with my kids too, with sometimes when they're looking at those that have all this money, they think that, oh, their life is great. But you can't say that, because again, and that's where that empathetic part comes in. Until you put yourself in someone's shoe, you don't know what they went through to get to where they are today.
Yeah.
So, but when we show that we're so perfect and, nothing ever happens to me, that's not true.
No. Never assume.
Right. Never assume, people are always looking into other people's windows from the outside, but you have no idea what's going on the inside. And so I think that is important, that people know it's okay to have those moments where things are just not right, and that we can function in a world or we can function off of our failures at the moment, and that's where you get to go back to the table and figure out, how am I going to do this differently, But if we don't teach people that failure is okay the first time that they hit it and they don't know how to react to it, it's not a good thing, because then they get into a dark place. And we don't want you to be in that dark place. And it's just like when I tell people that it's okay to go in your past and rekindle. Just don't stay there.
Yes.
Don't get stuck.
Yeah, don't stay in the basement forever. That's
Yeah.
You
just want to look and say, okay, what can I do differently that benefits my future, but don't stay there. And so, and that's that part of, matter of fact, I was just talking to my niece about this last night, and it was just something she's going through with her own mother, and her mom has gone to this point where, I want you guys to see me as perfect. I don't ever want you to see my flaws, but you know what? It's okay that you're flaws, because if we walk around as somebody we're not, and that's how I look at it. We're walking around like somebody that we're really not, and we're portraying this, and it's giving people false ideals. And that's the same thing with us. If we're walking around like that and we make it seem like everything's perfect in our life, but come over here and talk to me, that's like a false presentation to them. And we're not helping them if we're not helping ourselves.
That's so true. And I think it's something about, we all are trained. I did the training in the world I work in now. But as soon as I trained, I just got out there and I fell over and picked myself up and fell myself over and picked myself up. And I'm always finding it very strange if I train or if I mentor. It's almost like I've got to get everything perfect before I can start to do my job. No, you just learn on the job. Get started, fall over.
And it's
on the main, if we do it with total empathy and kindness and care,
Yeah.
We don't, there's very few people that I've damaged along the way. I'm sure I've hurt, I'm sure that there's clients out there who I would have, like the first client I worked with for years ago, who I didn't even realise because I wasn't trained, and she'd been vomiting all the time, and I didn't know until at the end of the session, the year, that what she'd done. And of course, I look back on that young lady, I think I wish I'd known, but I didn't. So it doesn't matter that I didn't. But that we seem to be so stuck with knowing everything before we do anything. Like we've demobilised ourselves. We can't function.
Yeah, we've kind of tried to become A-list actors without learning the lines.
No, exactly.
And we don't learn the lines until we've learnt the craft.
Yeah.
And we don't learn the craft and be an A-list actor at the same time. You've kind of got to go through the process. And it strikes me from the conversation that what we're seeing across the sector is a huge level of fear among professionals.
Oh, yeah.
At accepting the unknown. And I'm minded of a story that Will Smith says publicly, almost, I think I've heard him kind of give it in presentations 3 or 4 times now. But the idea of fear at the moment of safety, but at the moment of most risk, fear is gone. And it's the story of somebody who agrees to go for a parachute jump. And it's a great idea when everybody's sat around the night before going, yeah, let's go and do it. Yeah, we can do it. And we take on this idea that we can do this thing and we can make this change in our world. And then we're sat in the plane and we go, whoa, hold on. You're not jumping out of the plane just yet. You're still in the plane. But you're concerned, the fear of what's coming, that you've no idea how that's going to feel, but the fear starts elevating. As the plane elevates, so does that fear.
Right.
Yeah.
We are at the point as a sector, in my mind, as Will puts it in his story, we are sat on the edge. Our feet are dangling in the open air. Parachute is on. We're ready to go. But our fear factor is so high, we are gripping that plane.
I get you. And don't you think, Dave, if we spent less time covering our asses and more time getting on with our work, we'd actually make such a bloody difference, don't you think?
We would let go of the fear. We would come out of the plane. We would actually do what happens when anybody gets to that point, realise that's the point at most risk, right? You're out of the plane. You're not sitting on anything now. That parachute doesn't open. It's a long way down. Maximum risk. But it's the most enjoyable moment of the day as you are free falling, because you know that there is nothing else that can happen but this experience. And the human being embraces that moment like nothing else.
Yeah, I get you.
And when the safety mechanisms kick in, and we have to make sure that those are there, just like if you're jumping out of a plane, make sure you've got the parachute on. Those safety mechanisms have to be there. And an effective, within our sector, an effective membership support system is that safety net. It is that parachute. And if you wear a parachute that is not comfortable, it ain't going to open the right way when you need it.
No.
You need to find the chute that's comfortable for you, that fits for you, not what somebody else tells you to wear, because you have to be the one that deploys it when you need it.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And as we come to a close, and I kind of want to kind of sum up the thoughts and kind of hopes. Collaboration, effective safety nets, and positive engagement come to the fore.
Yep. Ultimately, time and time and time and time again. We can do it.
I think there are professionals out there that are already doing it.
Yeah.
I think it's time for the sector to actually embrace those professionals that are doing it and going to the outside world. If we can show you what therapy can achieve, then get on board. But while everything is in silos, the public look at it and go, no, doesn't make sense, doesn't fit, doesn't work, not engaging. And we could just carry on repeating the same mistake.
I agree. And unless mental health, unless it becomes a case that we are all in this together, nothing's going to change, because we are all in this together and we've got to come together. As easy as that.
Yes, I agree. And to answer your question of what would I like to see at the end of 2021, what I would really like to see is, because we have went a direction of online, and online is a big piece, which is great because we can remotely work with people. Is I would probably like to see a little bit more ads. No, I would like to see a lot more ads about mental health. And I would like to see it more on the social platforms that we have out here, because if we have ads of other things that we shouldn't be looking at, why can't we be putting something out there that's reaching people?
Yeah.
So I would definitely like to see more of that happening, so that it's reaching billions, trillions of people, because that's, we're all online now.
Yeah.
Whether you wanted to go that way, you know, and some of us didn't want to go there, because I told you I didn't want to go there, but it was either go there or get left behind.
And we had that conversation back in the spring.
I said, Teresa, I will never train online. I've done three training courses now. So what happened there?
and this is the thing, isn't it? That we have to show the flexibility, the adaptability that we coach and counsel in clients.
Exactly.
And if we're not prepared to do that as a sector, we are not being true to our profession. We are not being true to our clients.
And we can't expect our clients to do it either, can we?
And how can they take us seriously as a sector?
Right.
You know, as regards to kind of the information being put out, I am going to give a plug to the infomercial that APA has produced this year, because I think it's time for the public to know that they can reach out before the walls close in.
Yeah.
And the infomercial that APA has produced is very much directed at getting that message out. Do not wait. You can reach out, head to the APA directory, and you will find professionals that have been accredited based on their self-awareness. They've all had a verbal conversation around self-awareness, and we know that self-awareness avoids unloading from the profession. And we know that is the hardest thing for any client to have to do.
Exactly.
Professional starts unloading. So the move forwards, I think, is in our hands. We are at the edge of that plane waiting to jump. It's time to jump. Make sure you've got the parachute that feels most comfortable for you, for your own safety and that of your clients, and make sure that you're making those choices to showcase the therapeutic principles in yourself, just as much as you work with your clients to achieve. And that would be my hope for the future.
And on saying that, The dog seems to have woken up and moved.
She's decided, no, she doesn't want to, she's not going to say goodbye to everyone. Yeah, I was half expecting her to sit up and say goodnight to everybody.
Good night for me. Yeah, I know. Oh, it's great to meet you, Teresa. That was really
nice
good.
meeting you as well. This has been really great, engaging, a lot that I'm going to take away, and so that I'm moving forward as well.
That's great, and thank you.
I want to thank both of you for your time. It's been an absolutely phenomenal conversation, and I hope everyone has enjoyed and will take away some of those points and things that have been raised and embrace them. This is not about having a pop or having a go at anybody or anyone that is involved in this sector. This is about collaboration. It's about coming forward and going, this is an opportunity for the whole sector.
I agree.
Not just
a
small group within the sector.
I absolutely agree.
So on that, I will bid everybody good afternoon.
Good afternoon. And I'll see you next week. It's lovely meeting
you guys, and
see you next
morning
week.
to me.
Bye then. Bye-bye.
Take care.